The year 2025, Sean Diddy Combs, a name that once dripped with aspiration with the sheer audacity of success. He was the architect of a dynasty, a maestro of the hustle. From the gritty streets of Harlem, he spun gold, transforming beats and rhymes into a global phenomenon. But empires, no matter how grand, can be fragile. For Diddy, the pressure began as a whisper, a murmur in the background of his glittering life. Then, those whispers grew louder, coalescing into formal accusations, lawsuits that painted a disturbing picture. The man who seemed to have it all, who defined an era of opulence and entrepreneurial spirit within music, suddenly found himself facing a storm of a different kind. The headlines, once celebrating his latest business venture or philanthropic effort, now screamed of federal raids, serious allegations, and an impending trial. How could the hitmaker, the Kyrock king, the fashion icon, be entangled in such dark and disturbing claims? The journey from the pinnacle of success to the defendant's chair is a steep and treacherous one, and for Diddy, it became a public spectacle. This wasn't just about one man's fall from grace. As 2025 unfolded, the world was about to get an unprecedented look inside the crumbling empire of Sean Combs. Before the storm, there was the ascent. Sean Combs, then known as Puff Daddy, wasn't just a musician, he was a visionary, a cultural architect. In the 1990s, he birthed Bad Boy Records from the vibrant, raw energy of New York City. It launched careers that defined a generation of hip-hop and R&B, artists like the notorious Big, Mace, and Faith Evans. Bad Boy wasn't just making records, it was crafting a lifestyle, an aesthetic, a brand that screamed success and aspiration. His ambition knew no bounds, extending far beyond the recording studio. He ventured into fashion with Sean John, a clothing line that didn't just follow trends, but set them. Then came the spirits. His partnership with Kyrock Vodka was transformative, not just for the brand but for celebrity endorsements as a whole. He didn't just lend his name, he embodied the luxury, the exclusivity, the party. By 2022, Forbes estimated his net worth at over a staggering $1 billion. He was the epitome of the artist-turned-entrepreneur, a blueprint for many who followed. The sheer scale of his achievements made the subsequent allegations and the speed of his public unraveling all the more shocking. The glossy veneer of Diddy's empire began to show its first significant cracks in late 2023. It started with a bombshell lawsuit filed by his former partner, R&B singer Cassie Ventura. The allegations were deeply disturbing, painting a picture far removed from the public persona of the charismatic mogul. Ventura accused Combs of a prolonged period of abuse, coercion, and even trafficking. The details were graphic and unsettling, sending immediate shockwaves through the entertainment world and beyond. The lawsuit, though settled with surprising speed just a day after its filing, opened the floodgates. In the early months of 2024, a cascade of similar allegations emerged from multiple other women. These new lawsuits echoed Ventura's claims, detailing accusations of sexual misconduct, physical abuse, and a pattern of Combs allegedly using his immense power, influence, and wealth to control and manipulate individuals. The sheer volume and consistency of the accusations began to form a troubling pattern. The legal battles were primarily waged in New York and California. Each new filing added another layer to the rapidly darkening cloud gathering over Combs. The plaintiffs, some named and some anonymous, recounted experiences that spanned years. The swift settlement with Cassie, while perhaps intended to quell the immediate firestorm, paradoxically fueled further speculation. Why settle so quickly if the claims were entirely without merit? Section 4, the knock at the door, federal agents and mounting pressure. The situation escalated dramatically in March 2024. Homeland Security Investigations agents executed coordinated raids on Sean Combs' opulent mansions in Los Angeles and Miami. These were not subtle inquiries, they were full-scale operations with armed agents, armored vehicles, and news helicopters circling overhead. The images were stark. The symbols of Diddy's immense wealth and power being breached by federal authorities. The raids were reportedly connected to a burgeoning federal investigation into allegations of human trafficking. While no formal charges were filed against Combs at the exact moment of the raids, the message was unambiguous. Federal investigators were clearly building a case. Agents were seen meticulously collecting evidence, focusing particularly on digital devices. The public was given glimpses into the nature of the investigation through leaked details and eventual court filings. Evidence photos reportedly included an unsettling array of items: guns, ammunition, various sex toys, and drugs. Special Agent Gerard Gannon in later testimony would describe finding AR-15 parts alongside items like baby oil. The raids weren't just a show of force, they were a methodical gathering of potential proof. The man who once seemed untouchable was now squarely in the crosshairs of a major federal investigation. Section 5. The Indictment. When the music stopped. The months following the dramatic federal raids were filled with intense speculation and an unnerving silence from the Combs camp. Then in September 2024, the other shoe dropped. Sean "Diddy" Combs, then 55 years old, was arrested. The larger-than-life figure, the architect of Bad Boy Entertainment, the global icon, was taken into custody. The news reverberated across the globe, confirming the worst fears of his supporters and validating the claims of his accusers in the eyes of many. The era of Diddy, as the world knew it, had irrevocably changed. The charges laid against him were severe, reflecting the gravity of the federal investigation. He was indicted on multiple counts including sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. These were not minor offenses, they were accusations that painted a picture of a criminal enterprise. Standing before a judge, Combs pleaded not guilty to all charges. His legal team geared up for what would undoubtedly be the fight of his life. If convicted on these federal charges, Diddy faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison. The arrest and indictment sent a clear message. No one, regardless of their wealth, fame, or influence, is above the law. Section 6. Inside courtroom walls, testimonies, and revelations. By May 2025, the federal sex crimes trial of Sean Combs was well underway. The courtroom became the new stage, but this time, the drama was all too real. On its 9th day of testimony as of May 22nd, the trial had already unveiled a series of shocking and often deeply disturbing accounts. His defense team, while reportedly admitting to instances of domestic violence, vehemently denied the more severe charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. A parade of witnesses took the stand, each adding their piece to the complex puzzle the prosecution was assembling. Musician Kid Cudi testified about his brief relationship with Cassie Ventura and subsequent unsettling interactions with Combs. Cassie's own mother, Regina Ventura, provided emotional testimony about the alleged abuse her daughter endured. Former employees offered damning insights into the inner workings of Diddy's world. George Kaplan, testifying under a grant of immunity, spoke of setting up hotel rooms for freak-offs. David James, another former assistant, described a climate of fear, witnessing Combs' violent outbursts. Sheree Hayes, a former exotic dancer, testified about orchestrated sexual performances involving Cassie and Combs. The evidence presented was not limited to personal accounts. Each day brought new revelations, each testimony adding another layer to the prosecution's case. Section 7. Echoes and Aftershocks. An industry reconsiders. The fallout from the allegations, the raids, and the subsequent trial was swift and severe. Sean Combs, once a ubiquitous presence in media and at high-profile events, began a noticeable retreat from public view. Scheduled appearances were quietly canceled, and his once active social media feeds grew silent. The vibrant, charismatic persona that had defined his public image for decades seemed to evaporate. The industry that had once celebrated him now watched with a mixture of shock, dismay, and perhaps a degree of introspection. Brands and business ventures associated with Diddy quickly began to distance themselves. Revolt TV, the media company he founded, saw him step down from his chairman role. The lucrative partnership with Ciroc Vodka became strained. His music saw a noticeable dip in streaming numbers. A planned documentary and a biopic about his life were quietly shelved. The impact was also felt within his personal and professional circles. Some of his closest friends and collaborators reportedly went silent. The Diddy case has forced uncomfortable conversations about the culture of silence that can protect powerful figures.